Everybody! Today we are going to be recapping one of my favorite books, and that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This is Ernest Cline's first novel. I don't know who writes a masterpiece as their first novel, but if you ask me, I believe this guy did, because this novel is amazing. We're going to be recapping it because Ready Player 2 is coming out November 24th, which is really soon. This book is actually very near and dear to my heart. I've read it many, many times. My husband actually almost proposed to me after we watched the movie. It's a good thing he didn't do that. Movie is not my favorite. So instead he proposed me after Infinity Wars, which as far as movie goes, not the best. I still said yes, so he must have done a good job. Let's jump right into this book. Our setting takes place in the not-so-distant future. The world is in famine, poverty, war, anything bad that's going on, you name it, it's happening. The only way these people have to escape their lives is to go inside the Oasis, which is a virtual reality, massively multiplayer online video game. You have your visors, your haptic gloves, that's kind of your basic setup, and you just live inside this virtual reality world. Sounds pretty cool to me. When the creator of this video game dies, James Halliday, he leaves his fortune and control of the Oasis to whoever can find his Easter egg hidden within his video game, which is the Hunt, he calls it. If you know anything about video games, you know that Easter eggs are not necessarily part of the plot of a video game, but they are left in by the creators for a little surprise. And Halliday actually really loved the 80s, so he's gonna have a lot of little 80s pop culture references thrown throughout this whole book and his video game. This leads us to our main character, Wade Watts. He is an 18-year-old high schooler who is one of these people looking for this Easter egg. His username is Parzival in the Oasis, and he lives in the Stacks, which is a bunch of trailers just stacked one on top of the other. This is just a part of this world that we live in. He lives there with his aunt and her boyfriend, and there's not a lot of love between them. Actually, when we first meet Wade, he's brushing up on some 80s video games when his aunt comes in, steals his laptop to sell for food vouchers. So, like I said, not a lot of love. Wade sneaks out and runs into his neighbor, Mrs. Gilmore, his sweet elderly neighbor, but he is on his way to his hideout, which is a hollowed out van that he uses to store his most precious objects like his visor and gloves to go to school. He puts those on, goes inside the Oasis, and heads to school. Once there, he looks through some Gunter blogs, which is the name of these people who are looking for this Easter egg. Egg Hunter, shortened to Gunter. And one of his favorite blogs to read is by a female Gunter named Artemis. She is smart, witty, she's really good at some of this 80s stuff, and he has a total cyber crush on her. Then he heads to his best friend H's chat room. It's called The Basement, where a lot of high-level Gunters get together, but really him and H just kind of jab each other with 80s trivia, practice their 80s video games, watch 80s movies, just getting prepared for this egg hunt. One of the Gunters in this chat room is iRock. He's a total poser. He doesn't even deserve to be here, and actually he kind of causes Wade and H a little bit of trouble later on. The major difference between H and Parzival is that H goes to these PvP zones where he battles it out for cash prizes. So he has a lot of money and resources, whereas Parzival has none. He can't travel anywhere, he can't do quests. Fortunately for him, though, he is pretty smart, and he is actually one of the first people to discover the meaning of the limerick, which is the first clue that Halliday left. He's sitting in Latin class when he realizes that maybe Halliday wanted a student to win, which is good for Parzival because he has no money to go anywhere else. He discovers that actually there is a recreation of the Tomb of Horrors, which is a D&D module based out of his school's planet, Ludus. So he just walks directly there after school. I mean, he takes a teleportation voucher, but anyways, he goes right there to it. He's one of the first people to discover the hidden location of this key. It just, I don't know, it makes me so excited just knowing that this high school kid is the first person in years to kind of crack this, this key. I don't know, this is where I start getting super excited. So he knows exactly all the monsters to avoid, but there is a Demi-Lich at the end that he has to fight. Fortunately for Parzival, since he has no experience or EXP, he only has to face the Demi-Lich in a battle of an old arcade game called Joust. He's played this a lot with H, so he beats the Demi-Lich easily. On his way out, he runs into who other than Artemis. He's actually found the Tomb of Horrors weeks ago, but has been unable to beat the Demi-Lich. They have a flirty conversation before Artemis realizes that Parzival has beaten the Demi-Lich. She gets a little mad and throws up a force field. It resets at midnight anyway, so Parzival is out of there and on the way to the first gate. The first gate is located in Middletown, which is a planet that's recreated after Halliday's old hometown. In there, he opens up his computer and plays a game called Dungeons of Daggeroth, which seems like a text-based adventure game. He's already done this many times and has his Holy Grail diary in front of him to kind of guide him through. And he does, wins, and opens the first gate. Inside the first gate, he is playing Matthew Broderick in War Games. And to beat this game / movie, he has to deliver every line perfectly, do actions just like the main character. I mean, Halliday really wanted people to like the things that he liked so much that he wanted them to have memorized his favorite movie. Wade flies through that movie because he's seen it a million times. When he comes out, he finds out that he is #1 on the scoreboard, which is a website Halliday created after his death to show rankings for who's finding keys, opening gates, things like that. He sees that Artemis is not far behind him. Then he gets a video chat from H, who has used a little bit of an advantage to figure out that Parzival could not travel anywhere. His Tomb of Horrors must have been located on Ludus. He is already there. Wade actually gives him a little hint about playing on the left-hand side. He's not really supposed to be doing that because there's a lot of money at stake here, but he does. IROC reveals to the media that H and Parzival are students on Ludus, so soon everyone is crawling over that planet. Parzival has become a household name, being the first person on the scoreboard, and sells a lot of endorsement deals to get a lot of cash. Quickly, 2 other names show up on the scoreboard, Dado and Shoto. Meanwhile, all Parzival can think of is Artemis. Another group of people going after this egg are the Sixers. These are the employees of a big corporation, Innovative Online Industries, or IOI. They want to ruin the Oasis. They want to charge monthly fees. They want to put ads everywhere. Sorrento is the head of this group, and he wants to have a meeting with Parzival. Parzival accepts. He turns down all of his offers, but then finds out that Sorrento has placed a bomb under his home, under his stack. And Parzival calls his bluff on it. Well, a bomb detonates, those stacks go down, his aunt, her boyfriend, Mrs. Gilmore, they're all dead. So Wade meets with the High Five, which is the name of these top 5 people on the scoreboard. We have Parzival, Artemis, H, Dado, and Shoto. He meets with them to tell them that the Sixers are no joke, they are coming after them in the real life, and they need to take precautions. At this time, in this chat room, some books fall over, which we don't really know what that's about. Seems like a glitch, but Parzival thinks, since he's being a little more paranoid, that it might be someone in there. Parzival then changes his identity using some hacks he bought on the black market, using his retinal patterns, fingerprints. He now has the name Bryce Lynch. He also uses this to buy an apartment and locks himself inside, saying he is not coming out of there until he has the egg. Parzival and Artemis spend a lot of time together. They start falling in love, though they are supposed to be focusing on this clue, which has to do with trophies, captain, a whistle. The only thing Parzival can really think of is about this hacker named John Draper, who used the prize whistles found inside Captain Crunch boxes to hack into things if blown at a certain frequency. This is the only thing he has going, though. He doesn't know there's a dilapidated dwelling in the clue, and he doesn't know what that means yet. Parzival and Artemis are invited to Ogden Morrow's, who is the co-creator of the Oasis, his birthday party at the Distracted Globe, which is a dance club, which is shaped like a globe. You can walk all around it. They do some amorphous blob dancing. Don't know what that's all about. But this is when Parzival feels like he really wants to tell Artemis that he loves her. He does, and she is super self-conscious. You know, he hasn't seen her in real life. How can he even know what love is? by just seeing her avatar, she could be lying, so she basically rejects him. At this time, the Sixers attack. I mean, it's the worst possible time for them to attack, right? But Ogden is all-powerful, and he kills them all. This is when Wade reaches rock bottom. Artemis hasn't talked to him in weeks. He's like spray painted his apartment black, shaved his head. He is totally immersed in this egg hunt. One of the quests that he does with Dato and Shoto to kind of befriend them, gain a little bit of trust, is a Japanese quest where he wins an artifact called the Beta Capsule, which lets the user become Ultraman for 3 minutes a day. He gives this to Dato just to gain some trust. Wade also has started a tech job. One day when he logs out of his shift, he finds out that he has been dethroned by none other than Artemis. He realizes he has to really focus on this. He thinks about the clue a little bit more in the trophies and realizes that Halliday had actually won 5 trophies. So he heads to the planet called Arcade, which contains a museum of gregarious simulation systems. When he gets there, he finds out that it's a total dead end, but when he walks out, he sees a pizza place that Halliday had used to like to visit. He goes inside, finds an old Pac-Man game that's been unplugged, plugs it in, and sees that Halliday has the high score. Wade beats his high score and gets this quarter, which we're not really sure what it's for. It doesn't have any description about it. You can't take it out of your inventory, but he just has it. I'm sure it must be something super powerful. Meanwhile, the Sixers are getting closer and closer. Because they cheat, they are using an artifact called Fiandoro's Tablet. I don't really know if that's necessarily cheating, though. Halliday did say that anything goes. This tablet allows the user to type in a username once a day, and you can see their exact location. If you're not in their sector, it'll show you which sector they're in. If you're not on their planet, it'll show you what planet they're on. And if you are on the same planet as them, it will show you exactly where they are. So they are getting closer and closer. When Wade comes out of the arcade, he sees that H now has the second key as well. We have our copper key, our jade key, and our crystal key, and H has found the jade key. H sends Parzival a little bit of an email with a clue as payback for helping him earlier, and it is a hint about a game called Zork. Wade knows exactly that there is a recreation of Zork on Frobos. He goes there and has to beat all these monsters to get 5 different trophies, but this game has a Captain Crunch box in it. So once he's collected all the trophies, he pulls the whistle out of the Captain Crunch box, blows it at the frequency which made John Draper famous, and gets the Jade Key. It's wrapped in foil. We don't really have a clue other than that. But when he walks out of the house, all the Sixers are there. They know exactly where this key is now. There's a huge battle because they're not super stealthy. All the Gunters are there. And then Dato's name mysteriously vanishes off the scoreboard, which means that his avatar has been killed. After the battle, Wade's sitting there thinking about the clue. All we have is this foil. We don't really know what it means. Unfortunately, though, Sorrento does, because he is the first person to unlock and clear the second gate. And even worse, he's the first person to obtain the crystal key. Oh, this is when I start getting so stressed. It looks like they're gonna win. All they have is one last gate to clear, and they have tons of people to help them. This is when Shoto meets with Parzival to tell him that Dato's death wasn't just his avatar. He was killed by the Sixers. They pulled him out of his apartment and threw him over the side. He reveals that their real names are Akahide and Toshiro, and even though they are brothers in the game, they have never met in real life. But the game is that real to them, that they are brothers. He also gives him the Beta Capsule, saying that Dato would have wanted him to have it. Parzival thinks about the clue a little bit more, realizing that the foil looks exactly like the origami unicorn from Blade Runner. So he says unicorn, it turns into that, and he knows he's on the right track. He just has to head to the closest cyberpunk planet, so he goes to Axon Rocks to take the Wattkampf test, which is alluded to in the clue. When he does this, he is transported inside of a video game called Black Tiger. He breezes through this, and when he wins, he gets to pick out a giant fighting robot. How cool is that? Wade picks out Spider-Man, which is very near and dear to his heart. We see that the Sixers have already taken a couple. The next clue is super easy. It is a 5-pointed star covered by a red circle, and we know that this is Halliday's favorite band, Rush, an album they put out called 2112, which describes a post-apocalyptic world, which there's a recreation of it. It's called Syrinx, and Parzival heads that way. He actually gets a clue that he doesn't think the Sixers got, and that's how to open the last gate. has to do with it's going to take more than one avatar to do it. Once Wade gets the crystal key, he knows that the entire world knows where the last gate is, because the Sixers have erected a giant impenetrable force field around it. It is Castle Anorak, which is the dwelling of Halliday himself. His avatar was named Anorak, and this was his castle. It's been closed ever since his death, but now it's opened, but no one can get in except for the Sixers. Wade knows that the only way to beat them now is for them all to work together, so he sends an email to the rest of the High Four about how to get exactly where he is through the second gate and to get the crystal key, and then he goes undercover. Wade is captured by the IOI Indenturement Service, where he becomes basically a slave, living in a prison-like area where he has cameras monitoring him 24/7. He literally has them like mounted on his body. He has to sleep inside this foam-like coffin, but he uses some hacks that he gained from the black market to hack into their system, but he had to be behind their firewall, which is why he had to do it behind their building. He does this and finds a bunch of information and figures out a way to stop the force field. Another thing that he sees is that they know where Artemis and Shoto live, and he actually sees a picture of Artemis. She looks exactly like her avatar, which is really sweet, except for that she has a port wine stain covering side of her face. Maybe that's why she was a little bit self-conscious. Wade books out of there and knows that he has to meet with everybody because he has to tell them that they're not safe. At this time, Ogden reveals that he's been the one listening in to them this whole time. He's the one who knocked the books over. He's all powerful, so he can listen in on any chat room, which he did. He wants to help them, keep them safe, so he wants them all to go to his mansion. To do this, Parzival has to catch a ride with H. When he does, H is in this RV that he's been using to stay mobile, which is why the Sixers haven't found any information on him. But he realizes that H, who has been playing a white male avatar, is actually a gay black female. Wade really doesn't mind, though, because this is his best friend. He moves right past that. Another piece of information that Wade stole from IOI is the gate. They have footage of the gate. It says Charity, Hope, Faith, which the Sixers haven't figured out yet, but Faith, Hope, and Charity backwards is the lyrics to 3 is a magic number, so he knows that 3 avatars have to get to the gate. He also wants to send an email out to every Gunter to plan for war, saying that the force field will be down at a certain time on a certain day, and they need to be prepared for all-out battle. They arrive at Ogden's mansion, which is fashioned to look like Rivendell, which I think is pretty cool. He made it for his wife, Kyra, who loved Lord of the Rings. And we actually get a reveal of that Halliday and Ogden didn't speak for 10 years because of Kyra and Ogden's marriage. Halliday actually really was in love with Kyra, but because of his social awkwardness, he didn't know how to break through that and tell her. So he ended up, out of jealousy, not speaking to Ogden. We are back in the Oasis in these really fancy haptic rigs, might I say, and we're all at Castle Anorak waiting for the force field to go down. Everybody's giant fighting robots are there, and Sorrento comes out to reveal that he has gotten Mecha Godzilla, which is taller than all their robots and near indestructible. It doesn't matter. We have all the Gunters on our side. We're gonna get through this. So, at the exact time that Wade said, a drone takes a bomb that he programmed into the castle, where a high-level user is holding onto the orb, which is the only way that the force field is able to stay open. The bomb goes off, and that user is killed, so the force field goes down. All-out war happens. Shoto actually sacrifices himself so that H, Parzival, and Artemis can go to the gate. But Parzival's not going to stand for that. He uses his beta capsule to turn into Ultraman and crushes Sorrento. They go and have the 3 of them unlock the last gate. At this time, this is when a massive bomb goes off and everyone in the entire sector is killed, which is half of the Oasis population. We know that the Sixers have detonated the Cataclysm, which is a major artifact that kills everyone in that sector. How lucky is that they had that? Well, fortunately for Parzival, that quarter that he won in the Pac-Man game is an extra life. For some reason, all his items become lost and scattered around, but he still has his EXP, which, that's great. The gate is still high above him though, and he has no magic or no items. He runs around collecting artifacts, one of which is Artemis's black Chuck Taylor's, which gives him the ability to fly. He flies up into the gate, but before he goes in, he promises that he is going to split the money between him and all 3 of his friends. When he gets inside, he finds that he has to play Tempest, which is an arcade game that is not his best. Artemis reveals that there's a trick though. If you die at a certain number of points, you will get 40 extra lives. Wade does this and gets those 40 extra lives. He's pretty good at video games, so he starts to figure it out and beats Halliday's high score. The next part of the level is that he has to do another one of those movies. He does Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is one of his absolute favorites, so he breezes right through that. The very end, we are here. Here we are. We are at the end. He is in just an office, which has every computer generation that there's been, every video game console, and he goes to one in particular, boots it up, and basically has to guess the password. He guesses a couple things until he realizes that Lucotia was Kyra's D&D name. Maybe this is why they went into all the backstory of Halliday's life in the movie, but really, I mean, it's not that much in the book. I mean, what was wrong with doing it like the book did? Anyways, he types in Lucotia, the computer pops up, and he puts in Adventure, which is the first video game to ever have an Easter egg. He knows exactly where the Easter egg is, goes to it, and instead of the name of the creator, which is how the old game was, he actually finds the egg. He's then transported to the top of Castle Anorak, where Anorak's ghost himself is there to tell Parzival that he has won. He has won the fortune. He has won control of the Oasis. He actually shows him a big red button that he says if he pushes will destroy the Oasis. I kind of have a feeling that's going to have to do with the second book, but we'll see. The last thing Anorak tells him is something that he never did, and that's to make sure that he gets out of the Oasis once in a while and live in reality, which Wade does immediately. Logs out, rushes to meet Artemis, and there they start a beautiful romance. So that's it, guys. That's all there is in Ready Player One. Hope you guys are ready for Ready Player Two. I sure am, and until next time, see you guys!